What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Let's get into some more exciting Seahawks numbers here because you guys know that I like quarterback pressure. I really like quarterback pressure. I like sacks, but pressure is something that I really try to talk about a lot on this channel because I think that the impact of getting pressure on an opposing quarterback is something that cannot possibly be overstated. And pressure can get lost when the team isn't necessarily converting a lot of those pressure opportunities into sacks. Never mind the fact that pressure is going to force inaccurate, hurried, or just plain bad passes. So I know that we've already talked a decent amount about quarterback pressure, and we're going to talk about it even more later this week when I do Pass Rush Friday. But I wanted to make this video to talk about what the general analytic community is talking about when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks and their ability to get pressure in that first game. Because obviously you're looking at it and you're going, well, we got 2 sacks on Bo Nix on over 50, I think it was like 49 or 50 dropbacks. Maybe it was 51, 52. So right around there. And that's not great, right? That's not something that you would normally get too excited about. But I really want to emphasize something here because when you expand out to consider any play where the quarterback is being hurried, the quarterback is being made uncomfortable, not only were the Seahawks really good on Sunday, they were maybe the best in the entire NFL. And I want to acknowledge that as early as possible in the week. Because at first blush, you might watch that game and think, the pressure's good, but it's not necessarily anything stellar. But when you take a look at the analytics, and I want to be very clear here, I don't think some of these analytics sites do a great job of capturing meaningful pressure. I think sometimes they capture a pressure that was like a designed pressure by the offense almost. I think sometimes they're counting pressures that don't actually impact the play at all. But they're doing that for everybody, right? Every team gets that benefit. Every team has the ability to generate kind of mirage pressures. So when they're telling you that you're the best or one of the best teams in the league at it, I think that's worth talking about. So I want to go over some of their numbers for the most recent week of football. Before we get into that, though, I hope you like this video. If you do, please click the thumbs up button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you like daily Seahawks content. Click the bell for notifications. Consider becoming a channel member, only $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. So let's start here with True Media Sports via Mike Dugar. And I believe these numbers come from Next Gen Stats ultimately, but I'm not sure. But I believe Next Gen Stats have the same number here. But the Seattle Seahawks generated pressure on 44.9% of the dropbacks. That is the highest of any team in the NFL. They beat out the Bengals by 0.1%. And it's worth noting that the team that the Bengals played, the Patriots, is the team that we're playing in week 2. So that could be the unstoppable force meets the extremely painfully movable object. Maybe. We'll see. But 22 pressures on 49 dropbacks. There was, I think, one team that had more total pressures, the Cowboys, because the Browns had to drop back 56 times in that game. And they obviously had more sacks, so it looks a little bit better on the surface level. But you're looking at this and you're going, that's actually really, really strong. Remember, we didn't have Uchenna Nwosu, and we were playing against a team that actually had a pretty good offensive line. I know Garrett Bowles got hurt later in that game, but that is an offensive line that they've spent some serious money on. Ben Powers, Quinn Miners is one of the best right guards in football, maybe the best. McGlinchey's not a good pass protector. He's a good run blocker, and I don't know what Wattenberg is, but that is not a bad offensive line at all for pass protection. And you can see the results. The results are undeniable. They generated pressure at an almost 45% rate, and their blitz rate was not anything that was out of pocket, right? According to this, their blitzing rate was about 24.5%. Yeah, it's higher than some teams here, but it's lower than some teams as well. Like Denver was up at 50%, right? We had a couple teams here that were above 30% as well, like the Saints, and like I just said the Broncos. So it was a normal amount of blitzing, and they were able to generate copious amounts of pressure. Number one in the entire league in a game where they played with no Uchenna Nwosu, who I know Mafe played an incredible game on Sunday. I still think Nwosu's our best all-around edge rusher. Then we got this from a stat account, and I think this data comes from, it's either PFF or Next Gen Stats, ultimately, but this was tweeted out by Account Stat. He was breaking down defensive tackle win rates on true pass sets. So this is basically a pass rush win rate on a true passing set for the entire week one. And you can see that, first of all, who was blocking Dexter Lawrence, and how did the Giants lose when they're key, like how? Okay, that's the first thing I want to bring up. But the second thing I want to bring up, two Seattle Seahawks made the list here with Murphy and Big Cat. Byron Murphy was third in win rate on true pass sets with 27.3. And Leonard Williams was down here at seventh, 22.2. Did any other team have more than one guy on this list? Doesn't look like it to me. Zach Allen was here, by the way, so the Broncos had their own guy who was whipping butt. But yeah, this is a very, very positive sign. We're getting pressure from the interior, and those pressures were not necessarily converted into sacks yet. We're not there yet, but that is coming. The sacks will come. If you get pressure, the sacks are going to come inevitably. So that's another very encouraging sign. And also encouraging would be this. This is from the 33rd team on X here. I think the data comes from Next Gen Stats, but I'm not 100% sure on that either. So it comes from the 33rd team ultimately. They listed out the players that generated the most pressure in week one. This was not counting Monday Night Football. I don't think anybody in Monday Night Football would have made this list. But even if they would have, it doesn't really matter for my point here. Boye Mafe was tied for second with 8 pressures, and Leonard Williams was tied for, I guess that would be fourth, with 7 pressures. So again, we had 2 guys in the top 12? Really, we had 2 guys in the top 5, I guess you could say more practically. No other team can say that. The only other team that can say they have 2 players on this list would be the Cowboys, because they have Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. But I think this does a really good job of expressing the all-around dominance of the Seahawks in that game rushing the passer, even if it didn't, like Bo Nix wasn't getting sacked 8 times in that game, but short of something like that, this is about as good of a pass rush dominance as you can find in the NFL right now. And what does this pressure result in, right? What is it all for? What does getting all this pressure mean, ultimately? Well, if you go over to the DVOA list over on FTN Fantasy, the Seahawks defense currently ranks number 1 in defensive DVOA, negative 56.2%. Number 1, the best. So that's tough to beat. That's tough to get around, right? And if you go to RBSDM, this is the, I believe, the Ben B. Baldwin site, I believe is his name. The Seahawks rank top 5, 5th in EPA per play defensively, negative 0.311. And they're right up here with the other teams, mostly teams that played really bad quarterbacks, right? Like the Saints played Bryce Young, the Vikings played Daniel Jones. The only team here that played a good quarterback was the Steelers, and who knows if Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback anymore. But through 1 week, this is what you get. These are the remarkable results that you get when you get a lot of pressure. In a game where, again, you are playing a weaker offense, I understand it. You're playing a rookie quarterback who played really poorly, first ever NFL start for him, and it showed. I think that you are really, I think you've really got something impressive on the hook here. And I think this needs to really be talked about, because it's going to get lost in the sauce a little bit because they didn't get sacks. And the 2 sacks they got were plays where I think Mafe and Hall pushed Bo Nix out of bounds behind the line. So even that is not necessarily going to win a ton of people over. But if you go past that level and you go to the next level, you're looking at a defensive line and a defense in general that got a ton of pressure on Bo Nix, disrupted him constantly, And this is why you get such good results. And if they can keep it up all season, and maybe they can, remember, this was all without Uchenna Nwosu. This is going to be an elite defense this year. They have to keep it up, but if they can, good things are going to happen. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Probably another video coming later today, but I just wanted to talk about this because it's not every week that you've got two not even edge rushers, pass rushers in the top 5 for pressures generated, and you've got 2 defensive tackles in the top 7 in pass rush win rate. Those things don't come together very often, and that's how you get here, and that's how you get here, and that's how you get here. All right, catch you guys later.